Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
I've heard it said before, like, it was a very smart man named Robert Meyer Burnett who said the currency of our current age is authenticity. And it's so true.
Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited, in association with Road to Perdition author Max Allan Collins, brings you True Noir, the Nathan Heller casebooks, based on his award-winning series of 19 novels about Chicago PD officer turned private eye to the stars, Nathan Heller, played in the audio drama by Captain Liam Shaw himself, Todd Stashwick, who you loved in Picard Season 3. This was the role he was born to play. Look out for the crowdfunding campaign coming to the internet near you. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and the as yet undefined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm Robcasting. Robcasting from the Rob Observatory. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. Just a pro tip to start this evening out with. So say someone comes and asks you to invest in a project. Not a terrible amount of money, but some money, money that's needed for the project. And if you say yes, and somebody checks in with you over and over and over again and says, you're good, right? We're good. That means the people that are working on the project are counting on you to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. Look, perhaps I'm not the poster boy for this, but I'm just saying, if you say you're going to do something the day you're supposed to deliver, you probably should deliver, because it's a good bet that those people behind the scenes have been working on things, making plans, making moves to get whatever it is they're trying to make done. And they're relying on you. So if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you should do it. I haven't always been the best person, the most reliable. I get stuff done. It might take me a while, but I'm just saying, just keep it in mind if anyone asks. That said, I got to say, the last two shows I've done, this is, by the way, Rob Observations, episode number 932. 932. I want to say the last two episodes on Anti-Fans have been great. Once again, I have to thank the audience. You guys have been terrific. I love your feedback. I love that it's a lot of engagement. I have some good letters to read to you tonight. So thank you for that. I very much appreciate that. You know how sometimes it feels like we're making the show in a vacuum. It's kind of an odd thing because I just talk into a green light. So the feedback I get from you in whatever form, whether it's letters, by the way, if you want to send me a letter, postgeeksingularity.com, right down there. You can send it at our website. Just send it right on in. It doesn't cost nothing unless you're going to write a novel. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost nothing unless you're going to write a novel, in which case you do have to pay. It's like the mayor of the town in Animal House. Never mind. Carmine, I don't think it's right that you extort money from the college. Look, you're using my police, my sanitation people, my Friosmobiles. So, if you mention extortion again, I'll have your legs broken. Oh, well, I'm sure we can arrange for a nice little honorarium from the student fund. And another thing, you better sit on that zoo fraternity of yours. I don't want drunken riots in my town. Anyway, that's just a little Animal House for you. Do I get demonetized for that? Probably not. My performance wasn't exactly stellar. But anyway, where was I? Episode 932. And I want to thank you guys for your participation. So anyway, my friend James Wallace sent me this article, wanted me to make sure that I was aware of this, because I'm always looking for something to talk about on the show. And this is interesting. There's been a lot of talk about streaming, about movies going to streaming. Like I was talking about, we talked a lot about Roadhouse and what Doug Liman said, that his movie got a lot of great test scores, and yet it's going to go to streaming only. It's going to go direct to Amazon, and Amazon Studios had made things like Manchester by the Sea, which I really thought was a great movie. So you're either committing, they bought MGM, you're committing to making theatrical movies or not. And as the analytics have shown, theatrically released films do better when they eventually go to streaming, because a good theatrical run imbues a movie with value that it didn't have before. And if something goes to streaming without a theatrical run, it tends to disappear into the black hole that is content. And people don't remember it. And what a theatrical run does is it creates not only awareness in the audience, but it also it creates a mark in the zeitgeist. And I think that's important. And always it adds value to a film, because a want-to-see factor is that's, I guess, how you would value a movie. Box office is a good indicator of where a movie's value comes from. Now, what is really interesting, and that we've talked about, is that Netflix, Amazon, and Apple now, the other streamers, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Max, they are tied to studios, and they're tied to larger corporations. But Apple, Amazon, and what was the other one I said? Apple and Netflix, they are their own men. They are their own companies. So their business, though, Netflix's only business, the only thing they do is they get subscribers. They made some half-hearted. I'll never understand why they spent $400+ million to make 2 sequels to Knives Out with Rian Johnson. Software. 2 sequels to Knives Out. And then they decide, well, we'll dabble in theatrical, so we'll release Glass Onion in 700 theaters for a week. And it actually did pretty well. You had a franchise. You had an IP. You already spent $400 million on these 2 sequels that you're going to make, paying your talent, making these sequels. You could have, Knives Out made $300+ million at the worldwide box office. It was a good bet that Glass Onion, with a decent marketing campaign, probably would have made more than that, maybe between 300 to 500 million even. But they gave it this half-assed 700 screen release in the United States. That's not, you're not experimenting. Everyone knows how the theatrical marketplace works. It's been working that way for 100 years. So for Netflix to do that and say, well, it's our theatrical experiment, it wasn't a great experiment. If you had opened it on 3,000 to 5,000 screens, probably 3,000 to 4,000 screens with a decent marketing budget, you might have made $500 million worldwide if you had done that. Which means that your investment's paid for. But if you don't do that, you make zero money. And then you rely on subscriptions. Netflix's only real income, now they have, of course, an ad-based tier, but their main income comes from subscriptions. And the thing about Netflix is they know, with however many subscribers they have that are actually paying subscribers, they know how much money they're going to make every month, which is something the entertainment business really didn't have before, at least not the movie business, because it was always up and down. You never knew, as William Goldman said in the great book Adventures in the Screen Trade, no one knows anything. Never more so now than today. No one knows anything, and you see indications of it all the time. Now, when it comes to Amazon and Apple, they have a whole different business model, in that Apple is not making movies to necessarily make money at the box office, even though that would be nice. They're making movies for their ecosystem that they've created with their devices, their phones, their tablets, Apple TV. And so Apple Plus, their service, first of all, it's great. It's very high quality. The shows they make, whether it's Severance, whether it's Ted Lasso, Masters of the Air now, HBO passed on it, and now they're doing Masters of the Air. Their shows, is it Bird Box, or not Bird Box, but the one about Blackbird, Taron Egerton going to jail. That was a great show, limited series. The shows that they're making are very high quality. I dare say the highest quality kinds of shows. And they're really good shows. And they're probably paying their talent a premium. And they're certainly not skimping on production. Spending a lot of money there. But it's because, with an almost $1 trillion market cap, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. But I would say this, it still does. Because movies have a spending paradigm that you can look at, and it's probably a good idea to stay inside those lanes. Like, you don't want to profligate spend when you don't need to. You don't want to make a $100 million movie for $200 million. There's no reason to do that. It distorts the whole industry. It inflates expectations. And while Apple can do it and doesn't care, I don't think it's good for the industry as a whole that they do. However, I would say this. The potential for their new Vision Pro that's been released, and keep in mind, it's expensive. Basically what they're doing with this release is they're making people pay for their own R&D, which I think is genius. They're going to use all the analytics and all the feedback they get to immediately improve on what they've already put out there. And make no mistake, one of the benefits of the Vision Pro is going to be watching movies. Now, I know a lot of people might not relish the idea of putting something on their face and watching movies, but the quality they're going to bring to the experience, will I need my subwoofers any longer? I still prefer sitting in my home theater and feeling the subwoofers, feeling the room pressurize with my low frequencies. But I want to add a second sub. But the thing is, with that Apple Vision Pro, they'll be able to recreate the experience however you want to watch it. IMAX, your favorite theater. You'll probably plug in. They'll probably have virtual movie theaters, your favorite movie theater. Like, I would love it if I could go to the UA 150, where I saw Empire Strikes Back 26 times. If they could figure out a way to digitize the experience, and you'll be able to even pick which seat you want to sit in, and you'll have that experience right there in the Vision Pro. And what are the first movies that are going to go on the Vision Pro? Apple movies, because they don't have to license them. They own them. And what do they got? What has Apple got? Apple's got Ridley Scott. Apple's got Martin Scorsese. And they thought they had Matthew Vaughn and Argyle. Well, they do, but that's not such a good thing. Maybe. But here's the thing, and I want to read this article that was in Variety, and I want to give thanks to my friend James Wallace for hipping me to this one. Let's delve into it, shall we? This is in Variety, and it was written by Rebecca Rubin. And here is the title. After Argyle bombs, can Apple keep spending $200 million on big screen gambles? Now, I just want to start off by saying, on the John Campy show in here, we're big Henry Cavill fans. I think I have 6 different versions of Henry Cavill in 6 scale. and there's another one coming from InArt. So I'm a huge Henry Cavill fan. As a matter of fact, I think one of the great crimes of all time is that we're never going to get another Man from U.N.C.L.E. because him and Armie Hammer as Ilya Kuryakin, I love Man from U.N.C.L.E. and I love that movie. So what a bummer. But I like Henry Cavill. As a matter of fact, you those fangirls watching him put together his gaming computer on the internet, those girls said that he made their ovaries explode. So you go, Henry Cavill. And he's barely in the movie anyway, so who cares? But still, let's get into this. I didn't want this to be a rip on Henry Cavill session because he's one of us, just so you know. I'm just saying. So as I get into this, hang on, I hate when this does this. I don't understand why. Okay. After Argyle bombs, can Apple keep spending $200 million on big screen gambles? Apple has spared no expense with his embrace of movie theaters, shelling out $200 million to produce historical epics, war dramas, and action comedies. All the while, the global box office contracts and rivals scramble to tighten their budgets. For most studios, these expenditures would be ruinous at a time when hardly any movie is earning enough money to justify that kind of budget. As one of the deepest pocketed companies in the world, though, Apple's spending Apple's spending habits in the entertainment space are jokingly called rounding errors. But can the tech behemoth keep spending big on big screen misfires? Or will a string of underperforming blockbusters eventually force Apple to economize? The answer to that is yes, because it doesn't matter how much you're worth. Eventually, you're going to have to show that the money you're spending has a return. Nobody wants to spend money and not get a return on it. That's the big question after Matthew Vaughn's spy thriller Argyle bombed in its debut with $18 million domestically and a disastrous $35 million globally. It's the third consecutive Apple release where an outsized budget will make it nearly impossible for the movie to turn a profit in its theatrical run. A film of this size and scale at a traditional studio would need at least $500 million globally to break even. Fewer than 10 films in 2022 and 2023 have reached those heights. It's an especially unlikely benchmark for Argyle, since the action comedy starring Bryce Dallas Howard as a reclusive author whose spy novels end up being oddly prescient to real-world events has been saddled with negative reviews and discouraging audience scores. Instead of fulfilling Vaughn's plans to turn the story into a trilogy, Argyle is shaping up to be the year's first flop. No studio can sustain massive spends highlighted by underwhelming box office, says Jeff Bach, an analyst with exhibitor relations. Argyle floundering at the box office is bad press. So in a way, it's already negatively impacted its earning potential on streaming. There's still a lingering debate about Apple's first two major releases, Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, $156 million globally on a $200+ million spend, and Ridley Scott's Napoleon, $219 million globally. Essentially, those movies fell just short of or slightly eclipsed their $200 million price tags. That's a problem, given that studios split ticket sales with theaters. On top of that, Apple has to shoulder tens of millions in promotional costs as well as distribution fees to Sony, Universal, and other companies who are booking Apple movies in theaters. But Apple has a different business model. So, were those results good for streaming-backed tentpoles or terrible for mega-budgeted films with renowned directors and notable stars? Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon were adult-skewing prestige dramas with big budgets, R ratings, and eternal runtimes. The exact type of movie that people hadn't returned to watch in theaters since the pandemic. So, while neither was in danger of recouping its investment, those films sold a decent number of tickets, especially compared to Scorsese's last film, Netflix crime epic The Irishman, which didn't play in theaters at all. And Scott's prior movie, Disney and 20th Century's period piece The Last Duel, which, by the way, is quite good, which cost $100 million and grossed a tragic $33 million globally. For now, Apple's movies won't be getting any less expensive. Upcoming films on its slate cost $100 million to $200 million and include an untitled 1960s space race comedy starring Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, Wolfs, a psychological thriller with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and Pitt's Formula One feature from Top Gun Maverick filmmaker Joseph Kosinski. Apple doesn't share subscriber numbers or viewership data on its platform, so it's impossible so where was I? The company has remained similarly quiet about the overall strategy, which seems to prioritize prominence over profits. As it experiments to find a winning formula, these robust theatrical releases can be written off as advertising expenses. And they can. I know it seems silly that you could think of a $200 million movie as an advertising expense, but when you're launching the Vision Pro as a $3,500 piece of tech, you absolutely can watch Killers of the Flower Moon on your Apple Vision Pro. When you can do that, that's exactly what they hope for. And that's, I know it seems nuts, but they write that all off. The entire movie's budget is a marketing expense off their product. Ideally, cinemas can help its films build enough awareness to generate awards chatter and buzz for its streaming service, Apple TV Plus. Will there be a point where Apple becomes associated with theatrical flops, turning off talent from wanting to work with them? And what happens with popcorn fare like Argyle, which isn't the kind of project that will be rewarded down the line with Oscar attention? No matter what the end game for streamers is, promotion, awareness, clout, the underlying idea is that audiences will flock to your platform because of the strength of your product, Box says. They flash a bunch of cash to attract talent, but fail to make an imprint with the product. Analysts point out that Apple is new to theatrical business, having only released three major movies to date. Some believe the company's massive market cap gives it the financial flexibility to keep figuring out the model that works best. However, like any publicly traded company, Apple is beholden to shareholders and has to justify how it allocates its capital. We're looking at a small sample size of 3 movies in 6 months, says Don Robbins, the chief analyst of Box Office Pro. Apple has such deep pockets that it continue to invest until it finds the model that works, even if it's doing it at a loss. So, okay. I've never produced a movie that cost that much money. The only thing that I have on, only movies I have my name on as a producer of, that were in the 5-figure of millions of dollars of range, the $20 to $30 million range, were the Agent Cody Banks movies. So I can't speak to the economics, but I would say this. For Apple, aside from Argyle aside, working with Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott is good business. The problem is the movies spending $200 million on movies that are not based on IP or not tentpoles. They're betting on the talent, not so much. I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon, great, compelling story, but it's not something that anybody is necessarily going to immediately go out and see. Oh my God, we have to go see that movie about the slaughtering of the Osage Indians and those white guys that are stealing their oil. Not exactly fair for a Saturday night at the movies if you're going to take your date. What is fair is, Martin Scorsese has a new movie out with Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. In that case, that's what's selling the movie, is talent. But a 3.5-hour running time, tough to justify. But still, from Apple's perspective, it's beautifully made. I really like the movie a lot. It's obviously not for everybody. It's not a bad movie. It's not embarrassing, and it's an important film. So from any metric in that arena, Apple, A+. I mean, what they're trying to do, like they are with their streaming shows, they're shooting high, and I admire that. I think that's the best way to be. And it's no that they're releasing the Apple Vision Pro. They just released it Friday. This is not something that is a coincidence. You know, they have 2 big major projects, and of course Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Apparently we're going to get a 4-hour version of that movie, like he has done with so many other movies. There's many different, most of Ridley Scott's movies, there's an extended version of The Martian. I think it's better than the theatrical version. Kingdom of Heaven, famously much better. The longer, I think it's an hour longer than the theatrical version. Legend has 2 different versions. One with a Tangerine Dream score that's 90 minutes. Another that's 2 hours with a Jerry Goldsmith score. The Counselor, a movie that I love more than anybody else. I don't understand the hate. I mean, I do understand the hate, but it's great. I don't care what you say. I love The Counselor. 2 different versions. So Ridley Scott, has made a lot of movies that have multiple versions. He works for the studios, and then he gets to do whatever cut he wants to do and release it in other formats. And I've heard that there's going to be a 4-hour version of Napoleon that I'm sure is much better on Apple Plus. And Apple Plus, by the way, their streaming service is amazing. Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. I mean, they do a great job. So their economics over at Apple have nothing to do with the rest of the film business, and nobody should emulate what they're doing. What I wonder, as I wonder with lots of people, why don't they specifically have a division, a film division, that is making movies for $40 million and less? whether they're horror, whether they're dramas. I don't get it. I honestly don't, and they should release them theatrically as well. Just like Roadhouse should be released theatrically, and this, I told you guys I read this script that I want to sit in a theater and watch this. I said it's a sci-fi horror film that has various elements of things you're all going to love, and what's brilliant about it is Act 1 is kind of one movie, Act 2 is kind of another movie, and Act 3 is kind of another movie, but they're all the same movie, and it all works together. I just want to sit in a theater with people and watch this movie with them. That's what I want. And this is the kind of movie that people would be like, oh, don't tell anybody. Keep the secrets, keep the joys of this story safe. Keep it secret, keep it secret, keep it safe, Lord of the Rings style. I want to see it in a theater. Like, I read this script. I haven't read a script in a long time. I'm like, oh my God, I want to sit in a theater with this movie. Which is kind of interesting because the person, let's just say that it shouldn't surprise me that was how I felt about this particular script. But I that's what I want. And I if the movie business is going to survive, Apple's way of making movies now is not helping, because it creates an unrealistic expectation. And I'm hoping Argyle, first of all, I haven't seen Argyle. John saw it. I've talked to a lot of people that have. I don't understand where they came up with a $200 million price tag for that movie. I don't know why Matthew Vaughn, before he directed, was a great producer. He was Guy Ritchie's producer. And he made Layer Cake. Layer Cake, I believe, was his debut feature. Great movie with Daniel Craig. Better than No Time to Die, I'll tell you that. And I mean, I understand people want to, you got to get paid, G. I mean, you want to be top G, you want to get all that money. I get it. I understand. But is it the best thing in the world? Is it? I know you get as much as you can, but I think what you really want to do is you make a movie and you dazzle everybody. People want to believe that your movie cost a lot more than it did. That's the key. You make a movie for $65 million that people thought was $120 million. Then you're cooking with gas or fire, as the case may be. That's what you want. And these companies that are spending, $200 million on Argyle? Kudos to them for thinking. They thought if it was supposed to be a trilogy and they really believed that, they thought they were launching an IP. And I think that is incredibly important because we want to see that go on. But is it the best thing for the movie business? I'm not entirely sure that it is. So it's who's to say? But I think that it's not a good thing. And Argyle, look, it doesn't help anyone's career with the outcome that the movie received this weekend. It's not good for anybody. And Matthew Vaughn deserves better, too. It's going to be harder for him to get his next project off the ground. Although he's a very savvy producer. Knowing him, he's probably got his next 2 or 3 movies already set up. But this is not a great look. It's not a great thing to happen. So I don't, even if there's a cat in it, and I'm a cat lover. So I just don't think that this is the way of the future. I don't think Netflix has proven, if you're talking about streaming, you're looking at analytics. The analytics for Red Notice and the analytics for The Gray Man. One movie was $200 million and The Gray Man was $220. You got the Russo brothers directing. I understand everything about The Gray Man seemed like it should be the greatest movie ever made. Was it? And was it worth that money? If you made The Gray Man for $65 million, and I've often said, what do I talk about on this channel all the time? You have 2 hours of time. You can make a low-budget movie, you can make a medium-budget movie, or you can make a $200 million movie. It's still 2 hours of time. The money that you spend has nothing to do with the entertainment value of the film. And this thinking that there is, like, oh, we have to give, if you're going to make an action movie, you have to give the audience spectacle. I give you John Wick. John Wick movies didn't cost $200 million. Certainly the first one, I think, cost $20. We were talking about that the other night. John Wick became a franchise. 5 movies if you include Ballerina and The Continental. And there's probably going to be many more spin-offs to come. And the thing is, you ask yourself, what you are providing an audience is enjoyment of that passage of time. When you're an audience, a human being, think about it. A human being is turning moments of their lives, their finite, your time is a finite resource in your entire life. You only have a certain amount of time. And we entertainment lovers devote an inordinate amount of time, probably way too much time, to passively sitting back and watching when we could be out living our lives. So if we're being given substandard entertainment in that 90-minute to 2-hour block, what does that say why are we accepting that from people? And the thing is, the amount of money spent does not translate into enjoyment as much as the studios might want to think it does. Shawshank Redemption didn't cost $200 million, and I guarantee you, if you gave people a choice to watch The Gray Man, or Red Notice, or Argyle, or Killers of the Flower Moon, or Ridley Scott's Napoleon, I know some of you naysayers are going to say I'm wrong, but all of you would pick The Shawshank Redemption for a second, third, or fourth time. All of you. And that movie cost a fraction. I know it was made 30 years ago, but still, by the way, celebrates its 30th anniversary this year, along with The Crow, along with Forrest Gump, along with a lot of other movies. By the way, The Crow, it can't rain all the time, but apparently it can in Los Angeles, because boy, have we been getting a lot of rain. Just an aside. God is Mother is the name of God on the lips of all children. Can't wait to get that in 4K. God damn, do I love that movie. That movie is probably way more entertaining than Argyle. Fire it up. But anyway, and Michael Wincott's in that movie. Like ninjas. No movie can't be made better with the proper application of Michael Wincott. And I think the last time I saw him was in the Barry Levinson movie, What Just Happened. By the way, if you want insight into what it means to be a producer in the movie business, might I recommend Barry Levinson's film, What Just Happened, that was based on producer Art Linson's book of the same name. But where his book was nonfiction, What Just Happened is a fictionalized version, and Robert De Niro plays the Art Linson character. And Michael Wincott is in it, and Bruce Willis is in it, Catherine Keener is in it. And I love this movie. It's one of the greatest movies ever made about the film business. And if you've ever worked in the film business, or if you ever produced a movie, you'll watch the movie like this. I swear to God, it's painful to watch, but so true. And Michael Wincott's so great. So remember, What Just Happened? It's on Blu-ray. It's hard to find, but if you want to take the Bobster's word for that, I think you're going to enjoy it. Check it out. But yeah, that's what you want. Everybody wants the same thing. You have a finite amount of time, and what is going to provide you the best entertainment? And how does that translate to dollars? I don't think they've figured that out yet, but it's not always $200 million. So who's to say? Anyway, that's what I wanted to jump in and talk about for a minute. Now I want to jump in and talk about letters. Got some great letters from people. Calvin Bowes, our favorite 8-year-old, has written in. And yeah, his dad probably helps him. But here we go, Calvin. Calvin's letter begins with this. Why must you do homework just to see a movie? Dear Rob, here is a continuing problem I see with movies today. Let's say you are dragged with a friend to see the latest Marvel movie and you never saw the one before. Within a half an hour, you're completely lost because you haven't seen the other movies or the TV shows. Does this make you want to see the other films? Or does it just make you say, I will never see one of these films again? I think most people would have the last reaction. I remember when I was 12 and the movie... Oh, wait, this is from his dad. So it's not from Braxton. It's from his dad. I remember when I was 12 and I saw the movie Conquest for the Planet of the Apes. Now, I'd not seen the other ape films yet, as they had not been on TV and your video stores were still decades away from being opened. So I saw this film, the fourth in the series, and I loved it. I had no trouble following the story, and I ended up seeing it 6 times that year. The movie was a good film all by itself. This movie made me ape crazy, and I got excited when the other ape films went on CBS the following year. And I also went to the Go Ape for a Day marathon event. Now, would I have done this if my first experience was seeing a film that depended on me seeing the other films to enjoy it? What if I was asking questions all through the film, like, who are Cornelius and Zira? And why does the ape talk? Actually, it's Caesar, because Cornelius and Zira are in Planet of the Apes. And they were in Escape, too. Why does this ape talk? I didn't ask these questions because the filmmakers made a film that was entertaining all by itself. If I watch a movie and I'm lost because I have not seen the other films, I will say you've not done your job. Your job is to entertain everyone in the audience, not just the people who saw all the other films. You must remember, every movie is somebody's first. You should only do homework for school, not to see a movie. This shows, Rob, that you are always, as you say, you should not put your universe first. Even if you're continuing a story from a film, you should still be able to have that film stand by itself. Here are good examples. The Godfather Part 2, The Empire Strikes Back, Star Trek 4. The films I mentioned above could be viewed all by themselves and enjoyed without needing to see the others first. Anything else is just sloppy movie making. Why do you think, Rob, filmmakers today are incapable of continuing a story but make the continuation not dependent on seeing the others? Filmmakers who are making the next sequel in a franchise should ask themselves before releasing a film, is this a good movie by itself? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, Rob. Calvin, first of all, thanks for writing in. I'm sorry I mistook you for Braxton. I was just excited to read a letter from Braxton, but it's always great to read a letter from you. I think it's a good point. Like, I read a lot of book series, like detective series, like the Harry Bosch books or those books, the Lincoln Lawyer books. One of my favorite series, and please, if I could do any TV series right now, I would want to watch someone to steal it if they haven't already. Jonathan Mayberry's Joe Ledger series. Now that Reacher's doing well, imagine Reacher, but with Tom Clancy and the X-Files. I'm telling you, the Jonathan Mayberry Joe Ledger books are some of my favorite books currently being published today. And what the premise is, I've talked about it before, that Joe Ledger has joined a fictional department of the government called the Department of Military Science. And basically what they go after is what we would traditionally think of as the supernatural. But in these books, Jonathan Mayberry has taken all of our favorite supernatural tropes and firmly set them in the real world and made them work, like zombies and vampires and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Cthulhu and aliens. I know some people, you might not dig it. I'm telling you, it works. But what he does do, and there's a meta continuity, and there's Bondian supervillains that are way better than the villains that James Bond has fought recently, let me tell you. And they've got these continuing characters, and they've got great characters like Nicodemus. Ooh, Nicodemus is a great character. And they've got a James Bond that became very, very bad, which is also great. And that character's son. The books are so good. And Patient Zero is the first one, and it deals with zombies, but it's not tired. But anyway, the point I'm making is that when you read these books, while the books do deal with an overarching meta story, and it brings characters back and forth, you could pick up any one of these books, and it would be anyone, you could jump in anywhere. And there's 13 Joe Ledger novels. The last one that came out was called Cave 13. You could jump in and read, that was a banger, by the way. You could jump in and read any of these books, and you would know exactly where you are, because Jonathan Mayberry does a really good job of making it work for his old school fans and new readers. And I would say that what you're discussing, Godfather 2, works as a movie unto itself. If you're already seen Godfather 1, when the movie opens in Sicily, you meet young Vito, you meet Robert De Niro's character early on, or you meet Marlon Brando's character that Robert De Niro played the younger version of. There's even the younger version of that character as a young boy, and you see what happened to his mother and his brother and why he made the trip to America in the first place. So if you haven't seen The Godfather, like Calvin said, you're getting the beginnings of that story, which is great. because immediately you're locked in. And then when you go back and you watch The Godfather, you're giving, because you never even see Marlon Brando in Godfather 2. So you could watch, it works as a prequel, a sequel. It's very interesting how those two movies work. Star Trek 4 is the same thing. If you've never seen Star Trek at all, you understand that these characters are in exile. You might not have seen that adventure. Why they're there, you might not know, but it still explains everything. And you get to know who these characters are as you move along. You understand, and they do a great job of that. And I think the great stories do that. However, Calvin, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was not built that way. And everyone knows from the get-go that they're building this mosaic, and each movie is adding to that mosaic. So it's important, I would say, in the case of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, everyone already knows. And if everyone already knows and it's set up that way, then it's okay to do it that way, I think. This one is a pretty neat letter. This one comes from Gio Diaz. And this letter is: the day has come for the punks to save the world, or at least Hollywood. Who do you turn to when the world is burning? Punk isn't music or fashion or a phase some of us go through. It's a philosophy. It's about the individual. It's critical of and often completely anti-authority. It's about having your own thoughts and making up your own mind. Your own music taste, not what the authority wants you to like. Your own fashion, not what the authority wants you to like. Your own politics, not what the authority wants you to like. And most importantly, having pure integrity and not giving a fuck what anyone else thinks about any of it. Hobie Brown, Spider-Punk in Into the Spider-Verse, is, in my opinion, the best character in years to represent what punk is. Hobie is the key to saving the Spider-Verse, and punk is the key to saving the world now, if they choose to. Robert, I believe you know Chris Gore from Film Threat, and I want to let you know how I feel about what's been happening over there. I think they're in a special place in the entertainment industry, and I think they need all the allies they can get, not just to support them, but to let them know that they have been thrust into a position they didn't ask to be in, but they are the only ones who can save us. Film Threat is punk. Always has been and always will be. The magazine, the 90s forums, their site, and their YouTube channel has decades of integrity. We are talking proven, uncompromising punk integrity. Hollywood, however, while being the authority in entertainment, has never really had any integrity whatsoever. I state that as a fact because I am positive no one would debate me on that. I mean, that's Hollywood, baby. Hollywood has gotten by without it until now, but this time it's clear that the ship is sinking. From animation, writing, directing, to really all the creatives that make the magic, talented people are reaching out for help. The authority is failing them. It's failing us as viewers, and Hollywood, the authority, is killing itself. Where can anyone turn? Who can they trust? Who's been a proven source of integrity that can make the voices be heard? The fucking punks who told you so for years. That's who. On a recent stream, Chris Gore was beside himself. We are not a news site. We're not a trade. We review indie movies and have fun. He seemed confused as to why so many people were turning to Film Threat. And I think he needs to understand that people are turning to Film Threat because of the proven integrity, the proven intelligence, and the proven anti-authority of cinema's cheap little indie punk rag. It's their choice. They could just let it all burn. To quote Watchmen's Rorschach, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us," and I'll whisper, "No." By the way, let's hear it for Walter Kovacs, ladies and gentlemen. That's him without his Rorschach mask on. I haven't opened my Rorschach figure yet. Actually, that was the Rorschach figure. I got two of them so I could have Walter Kovacs with his Nye sign. Or they could be like Hobie Brown and see the Miles Morales of the creative industries and take them under their wing and join them in creating a movement that can change the world. Robert, I'm hoping you agree with me, or at least can give your insight into what is happening. I am hoping you can pass along some of these thoughts and give these guys some support. Robert, you have the well-coiffed hair and pretty boy professional aesthetic, but you can't hide what you are. You're fucking punk, man. Fuck yeah, dude. I think I'm more punk than I am metal. Dieter Bastian's metal. I think you're right. I am a punk. Or whatever. All I wanted was a Pepsi, and he wouldn't give it to me. Institution. Anyway, I was having a little bit of a... If you don't know that song, people try and pick up girls. We call them assholes. This did not happen to Pablo Picasso. Why, he could walk down the street, girls could not resist his stare. Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole. Anyway, that's my Repo Man break for you. Or whatever. All we wanted was a Pepsi. It doesn't matter. I'll probably get hit by a car anyway. This is a great letter, and thanks for the compliments. I appreciate that. That was from Gio Diaz. Well, Gio, there's a lot to unpack in that letter. I think you're right, and I think, in a way, this is not unprecedented. This is not an unprecedented time in Hollywood history. In the middle of the 60s, Hollywood was working on an old school paradigm. The studios were dying out. They weren't making the kind of money. 20th Century Fox had to sell off their backlot, which became Century City, because they'd spent so much money making Cleopatra, and that didn't really work out for them. In a world where we have the civil rights movement, and we had the Vietnam War and protesters and rock and roll that we'd never heard before becoming... they didn't have punk, but they had rock and roll. And things were changing. And what happened was you had young, call them punks, the Mavericks, and Peter Fonda, Born to Be Wild. You had Easy Rider getting made. You had all these young, you had Coppola, you had, not Spielberg yet, you had Scorsese. You had even Roger Corman and the people coming out of his, Martin Scorsese was one of them, making stuff like Boxcar Bertha. You had all these filmmakers that had a lot of things to say that were counterculture, that were totally against the grain of what Hollywood wanted to do. And they came in and they changed Hollywood forever. Read the book, Peter Biskin's book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls is a great document of that time. And it was because the status quo wasn't working anymore. And now, I think what's really interesting, I think the time, certainly economics are a part of it. But I think what is the real problem is that, look, as I'm now opening my show with, not to toot my own horn, but the individual and authenticity. The only people that can create truly great art that speaks to people's souls. And when it comes to being a punk, that's one thing. But being a punk artist, the punk movement came out of people identifying with, the Sex Pistols or whoever. That was in the UK, but we also had people in the United States, the Ramones, and all kinds of people that started in the 70s. Whether it was glam rock and it became punk, it was artists that were doing their own thing. And it was not necessarily for money, although they wanted it to come, certainly, but it was the people that gravitated toward the authenticity of the art that was being made. What I think has happened it's funny to say this, but I just saw a clip, and I don't know where it came from, but it was Martin Scorsese himself who was talking about, look, we're in a position now where every human being has access to the means of production to make a slick Hollywood film. I'm speaking to you on an M1 Apple laptop. That's what I'm broadcasting right off of right now. There's enough firepower in this laptop in terms of editorial software, in terms of effects software, that you could make I could use my iPhone and this laptop and the software that's in this laptop, and I could make a movie. I could mix it in 5.1. I don't think I could mix it in 7.1, but I could do a 5.1 mix in this laptop if I wanted to. And I could make a feature film that is Hollywood caliber. I mean, I dare say I could do it by myself. I wouldn't want to, but I could. The question that I have is, where are all the punks? Where are all the punk rockers that want to make these movies? Where are the people? Where are the Easy Riders, Raging Bulls that changed Hollywood, that were coming out of the 70s or 60s into the 70s? Where are they? You know, I was taken to task by a viewer asking, where are all the new filmmakers? And this filmmaker, this hopefully he'll be a filmmaker, got angry with me. Called me out and said, I'm one of the new filmmakers. Well, it's one thing to say that. See, people that are actually making art don't call themselves artists. They don't, I mean, some do, but I don't like those people. The people that are making art are out there making art. They're out there doing their thing. They're doing whatever they want to do. And I would say, I've talked about it before, but the two brothers that made Talk to Me, you know, cutting their teeth on TikTok and Instagram, they went out and they made their first feature film, made a lot of money. Now they have a career. I mean, the pressure's on. They have to follow it up. But, I mean, I think that there is a group of filmmakers that we're seeing emerge. But the problem is they jump, because of the way the system works, right into the studio system. Because if you've made a decent independent movie, of course the studios are going to get you. Colin Trevorrow, you know, he makes Safety Not Guaranteed for $1 million. Spielberg, oh, I love your movie. Here, have Jurassic World. You know, I mean, Zach Krieger, who made Barbarian, made a deal for whatever clandestine movie he's going to make that no one knows anything about. Weapon, it's either Weapon or Weapons at Warner Brothers. He gets the big money, but I would say that he maintained his integrity because he's directing his own script. He wrote it. He didn't take some job on a Hollywood franchise property. And you know what? I'll bet you that a guy like him is going to continue being his own writer-director. He's their new Christopher Nolan. He's Warner Brothers' new Christopher Nolan. If he gets past the sophomore slump. I don't know. I haven't read that script. I'd like to read it if anybody's got it. But we're going to have people like him. And you're seeing filmmakers. I mean, I think Robert Eggers, despite the fact that The Northman was a $90 million movie, I still think that he has integrity as well. He's doing Nosferatu. No one asked him to do a remake of Nosferatu or even make Nosferatu. But he's doing it. He's going to the beat of his own drum. You watch The Witch. The Witch is a banger. The Witch is a movie that is a master class in developing atmosphere. So I agree. And by the way, other than The Northman costing $1 million or $90 million, did The Lighthouse, was that hugely expensive? Was The Witch hugely expensive? No. Barbarian, $4.5 million. $40 million return on that one. That's why Warner Brothers takes a look at him. Writer-director, apparently he had another script in the quiver, you know, ready to fire. Knock his arrow, knock his new project, but bam, sells to Warner Brothers. I mean, that's what we need more of. We need more writer-directors. We need more auteurs. And I'm talking about filmmakers from all across the spectrum. For all of this bitching about, well, we need more voices. Great. If we need more voices, then go be them. Don't look for more representation in Hollywood. Go be that representation. And I know that's easier said than done. But the world is ripe. I mean, we've got the technology. And if you want, not everybody has to work for studios. Even Scorsese said that. He said the studios are broken in this thing that I watched. He was saying, you know, Coppola famously said that maybe the next Citizen Kane will be made in some girl's basement, that she'll make it when she's 12 years old in her parents' basement. And that'll be the new film that we exalt as one of the greatest ever made. That isn't happening now. And yet there's all these people cutting their teeth making great content. I mean, while he's not a filmmaker, look what Mr. Beast has done. Mr. Beast has surpassed every single entertainment concern, and his audience, I mean, he's probably the most, not just with his subscribers, but the most. I watched a video today. I know he's experimenting with Elon Musk and X. I watched a video today where Mr. Beast, 15 minutes long, rescued 100 dogs from shelters and spent a ton of money, put them all up, and said, we are not going to stop until we've adopted all 100 of these dogs. Now, criticize him all you want. He has turned altruistic intent and helping your fellow man, he's figured out a way to not only do that, but also monetize it and turn it into entertainment. And if you look at what Mr. Beast is doing, I would say Mr. Beast is a fucking punk par excellence. And no one can buy him. He is outside of buyability. I mean, I go to the grocery store and you've got his Feastables chocolate bars, which aren't bad. He's got cookies, and he's making puppy videos where he's getting 100 puppies from kill shelters adopted. I mean, that, my friends, that is changing a paradigm. Now, and I don't even know how old Jimmy is. What is he, like 23 or something? 25, maybe 28? I don't know. But that guy completely changed. I mean, he is outside of the realm of Hollywood. No agents can touch him. No one can touch him at all. And as much as they might want to, because he makes more money than everybody with the amount of money that he spends. I mean, they can't, the Super Bowl wishes they could charge, like what he could charge for 30-second commercials on his videos if he wanted to. Unbelievable. I would say that, and he's creating 15-minute entertainment. I have to tell you, I watched that dog video this afternoon. It just popped up in my feed. I watched it. I ask you, that 15 minutes left. I mean, I have 3 dogs. I've raised 2 litters of puppies in the last year. I might be raising a 3rd. I love dogs. I grew up in a cat household. My mom's a crazy cat lady. And I watched that video, and it warmed my heart. And I don't think I can conceive of spending 15 minutes watching something that left me more satisfied than a Mr. Beast video. Now, laugh all you want. And you can say, okay, but that guy's a self-made man. You know, he cut his teeth on YouTube, and he figured out what he was going to do. And yet, whether he's going to Africa and building wells, whether he's helping blind people to see, whether he's getting dogs adopted, you can be as cynical as you want about it. But he's doing it. He's doing it. And all these other people that are opining on what Mr. Beast is doing, what are they doing? And I would say this is what's wrong with our culture right now, is we have the technology where everybody has it within their power to revolutionize their own life. But it's hard, and it takes talent and vision. And I think that's what being a punk today, Gio, means. And we have that. We have it. It's like in Ghostbusters. We have the tools. We have the talent. Well, maybe not the talent. That's a hard thing to come by. But, you know, I think it's a cool thing. But I'm optimistic in terms of that. And all the marginalized voices and the people that are complaining, I want to see them go out and make films because they can. You know, and people should go back and watch the dawn of the explosion of indie cinema in the 80s. Go back and watch Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It. You know, that if you watch that movie, yes, you can tell Spike Lee's talented. Movies in black and white. And if you look at that, or go back even further, go back and look at the movies of John Cassavetes. I mean, I can't believe I'm even going to say this, but watch the movies of Henry Jaglom. I personally am not a fan of Henry Jaglom's movies. I know he's like a trust fund kid or whatever, but still, you know, following as a friend of Orson Welles, I get all that. Watch those early movies. Go back and watch those things. If you want to watch a science fiction movie, Coherence. Now, do I think Coherence is a great movie? It might not be a great movie, but I really enjoyed it. And in terms of low budget, movies like Shane Carruth's Primer. You know, go back and watch Benson and Moorhead. Go back and watch Resolution. Go watch Spring. Go watch The Endless. You know, watch their early movies and see what they did with very little. They had very intriguing ideas, just like Shane Carruth did with Primer. Now, you might not love these movies, and they're certainly not Marvel films. But if you spend 30 or 40 or 50 grand on a movie, this is what people were doing, by the way, in the 60s and 70s. There was all kinds of regional films that were made because, of course, they had drive-in circuits, and there was much. But we have something better than the drive-in. We have what you're watching right now, the internet. I mean, you can self-distribute. You know, look what Eric July did with his Isom comic. Spent some money, spent his own money. He produced a 96-page graphic novel that he produced. And then he went and he pre-sold it or sold it directly to his fan base, made millions of dollars. Why shouldn't somebody be able to look at Chris Stuckman? Crowdfunded his film. Now, you know, and he was very upfront, very transparent. When he needed more money to make the film better, he told you exactly why. Do I think it's going to be a great movie? Don't know. But the thing is, he did it. He went out and did it, made it happen. He's an author. John Campea, same thing. He made movie trailers a love story. He made his feature film The Anniversary. You know, thought it up and did it. I wanted to make a movie about Taylor and the John Campea crew, The Search for Taylor's Father. I still do. We could have shot it over 2 weekends and had a 90-minute movie and sold it directly to the people who watch the John Campea show. Even if, say, 330,000 subscribers, if 20,000 people bought it for $5, it was $100,000. And if we spent only $20,000 making it, we could pay everybody and, you know, put some money in the coffers to go make another one. It's just a question of people want to do the work. And I think we're in a great position now because, look, man, one of the things with Apple Vision Pro, with those kinds of things, the world, I mean, my God, the internet gives people a chance to self-promote, show your movies, charge people, start YouTube channels to promote your own work, and then go out and make it. I mean, I should be doing more stuff, but I'm not, you know, because I'm mortgage poor. I have no money. But I'm still trying to do things. You'll hear the audio drama. It's coming soon. But Gio Diaz, great letter. Thank you for this. And look, I do want to say I've known Chris Gore for over 30 years. And Gio is right about what Chris Gore has done. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you something. For me, you can't see it. Oh, you can. Okay. See this right here? It's a videotape. It's a VHS videotape. It's called Midnight Follies. Here's a tale for all you children out there. So Peter Billingsley, don't shoot your eye out, kid. Peter Billingsley and I were our first movie. The first movie that I ever edited was a movie that he and I re-edited that he was the original assistant editor on, called Arcade for Full Moon. And after that, we decided, we love working together so much, we decided to start our own production company. And we started making music videos, and we made a short film called The Sacred Fire that was based on a Canadian fantasist's work named Charles DeLint. And it was 13 minutes, and it won a Golden Scroll Award of Merit from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. And Peter and I, we just rented a 16-millimeter camera. I was the director of photography, and Peter was in it. And we shot it. And then I looked around. People were looking for short films. And I contacted this company that put this videotape out, and they purchased our movie. They bought it, and they found 3 other titles. One of them, my friend Eric Wallace, who was at the Saturn Awards last night, who was the executive producer of The Flash for the final seasons. Eric Wallace had his movie that he already made called Dark Faith. I got that sold as well. And our movies came out on this cassette. And the first people to review it was the Film Threat Video Guide. So the very first time I had anything that I'd made reviewed was in the Film Threat Video Guide, I want to say in 1994. And it was all because Peter and I just decided to make a movie. And we made it. It won an award. And then I looked around, and suddenly there was a company that bought it and put it out. And as a matter of fact, based on that, we ended up making a sequel, and we spent $50,000 on it, and the author changed agents, and the agent didn't want us to finish the film, and it was a tragedy because they were going to put that one out too. And that was called Small Deaths. And I'll tell you something, the Sacred Fire, the script that we shot, I was just depressed. I had no money, and I couldn't get home over the holidays, so and I couldn't get back to Seattle, so I was feeling down. So what I did was I wrote a screenplay. I was reading short stories. I read a lot of anthologies and things like that, and I read the short story, and I'm like, I bet I could adapt this into a script, and we can go make it. And I did, and I showed it to Peter, and he's like, this is pretty good. Let's go make it. And we did. So there you go. Why shouldn't everybody do that? I don't know. we've certainly got the technology now. We're all carrying around 4K cameras with multiple lenses, and if you want to buy a lens package for your camera, you can. So anyway, this is a great letter. Thank you, Gio Diaz. First of all, let me see what you guys are saying, because people are firing in super chats and tips, and I haven't answered any of them. So let me do that right now. Let me see where you guys are at. B-Dep says, good evening, Rob. Hope you're staying safe. The Apple trailer for Manhunt looks really good. Did you read the book? It's been on my to-do list, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't seen the Apple trailer for Manhunt. I need to see it, and I did not read the book. But it sounds great to me. That's good. I'm going to have to go watch it as soon as I get off this stream. Scott Bartholomew says, when movie theaters go the way of drive-in theaters, extinct, then streaming will rule the land. Here's the thing, though. I do believe the communal experience, I know it's being ruined by a bunch of assholes. And there's a great article somebody sent me that I might delve into tomorrow about why have people become such douchebags in public. It's really interesting. But I still think that the communal experience can't be beat. At least I hope not. Scott Bartholomew also goes on to say, until then, the current model of theatrical release first, then streaming, will be the money-making template. I agree with you. Why anybody doesn't see that, I don't know. Every movie, now here's the thing, every movie, if the movie's good, if the movie sucks, like if Argyle turned out the way Argyle turned out, they're already $200 million in, they're not going to not release it because they already had deals they made to do it. The very thing, so they had to release it, and it becomes a huge bomb. Which is unfortunate. But hopefully when you release a movie theatrically, you know it's good. I don't understand why. I mean, first of all, Argyle should have been a movie that did not cost $200 million. Easy for me to say, I know. But I don't understand the economics of that. I don't get it at all. I don't understand why anybody would make that particular movie. See, here's the thing. The corporate thinking, the spreadsheet thinking, oh, this person's doing that, we got this person, great cast and all that. But is that the kind of movie that people want to see? I don't know. That's a tough one. Easy to Monday morning quarterback on that one. B-Dep says, I can't justify paying $3,500 for a VR headset from a company that has a history of a yearly hardware refresh cycle. Hey, I understand, but you know what? I think they put this thing out because they're hoping that their early adopters will give them the feedback they need. Are you kidding? As soon as those things get turned on, I'm sure Apple is like getting analytics that we don't even know what kind of analytics they're getting to help all their developers and all that. I mean, it's kind of genius that Apple sells these products. And look, my first Apple I bought was, I started working on Macintoshes, the first Macintoshes when I was at the Evergreen State College. And then when I moved to LA in '88, the first thing I did was USC got me a great deal, and I bought my first Mac. I've never looked back. I've been Mac'd out. Yo, I ain't PC. I'm the Mac, yo. I mean, I've been that way for a long time. I love products. I know. I'm going to get all kinds of flack for that. But what can I say? It's always worked for me. Isaac sends in a tip and says, I'm a young-ish person who loves older movies. I just watched Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times for the first time. I've seen all the other Tramp features, and this one was a magical finale, second only to The Gold Rush. Truly one of the best film series. Well, Isaac, there's hope for you yet. You are a fine young man. You must have good parents, sir. But I'm right there with you. I mean, it's if you have the right mindset, and I don't know how old you are, but if you are youngish, I would say that somebody obviously trained you to learn how to watch older movies. Because I think if you start when you're young and you're brought up on a great diet of great films, and you have somebody like a parent or a friend or a relative that kind of guides you into this, you know what to look for. And I think it's great that you, by the way, you can't see it, but I have a figure of Charlie Chaplin. The Tramp is right up there, but it's on a shelf that's out of camera range. I'm a big fan. Now you have to watch The Great Dictator. But you were obviously brought up well, and I think that unfortunately that's not the case with everybody. But kudos to you for going back, and you as an astute viewer can recognize the magic of what Charlie Chaplin was able to do. And the thing is, that magic hasn't gone away. It's just people have to be educated. You can't tell people to do things because then, like, don't you tell me. You have to have somebody bring you along and show you. And then you've clearly made the decision to watch the movies yourself. So kudos to you. You're a fine man. And I don't know who led you down that path, but buy him a drink. Maybe if you, I don't know if you're old enough to do that, but you've done well and they've done well. So kudos to you. And I look forward to hearing back from you. What other silent movies? I mean, I would suggest, if you haven't, watch like Murnau's Sunrise. I mean, these are very film schooly things to watch, but Murnau's Sunrise, there's one shot in there that'll blow your mind. It's a point of view shot. You'll know when you see it. Murnau's Sunrise. Watch Nosferatu. Watch Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Watch Wings. Howard Hughes' Wings. Won the Academy Award for the first Best Picture. And report back. Tell me what you think. So thanks for writing in. I agree with that. Jason Webster says, I agree with you, Rob. Hollywood studios should have a low-budget film division, keeps budgets low, and increases the chance of earning good profit upon theatrical release. Look, I honestly don't understand why the studios do not have, don't call it low budget, because I think that's a misnomer, because people think, oh, it's low budget, so it won't be good. Bargain, again, you're getting a bargain. I don't think so, because the artistry, remember where people like John Carpenter and James Cameron and all those people started out, and all of our favorite directors. I mean, Reservoir Dogs might have been a low-budget film, but it wasn't a bad movie. And Reservoir Dogs, any of Quentin Tarantino's movies, you could put up against any other film, no matter how much they cost. I mean, I love Reservoir Dogs. Is still one of my favorite Tarantino movies. And did it cost a lot? No. I don't understand why studios don't even have, like, they talk about diversity and they talk about inclusion. Why don't they have specifically an entry-level film division that is developing scripts? I mean, I know producers, man, they're making movies. Look at what Blumhouse did. I mean, Blumhouse had Universal on their side. They'd make a movie for $5 million. If it turned out, then they could release it theatrically through Universal. If it didn't, Universal, they could put it on streaming. They could give it to Shudder. They could do a bunch of things. Warner Brothers could do the same thing. You know, it doesn't make any sense to me that the studios are not cultivating new talent. What if you found an IP that began, what if you found the next Paranormal Activity? Or the next Saw? Or the next, I mean, I was on the set of Saw. I was shooting behind the scenes and interviews on the set of Saw. At Lacey Street Studios, which is look, I won't say it's a shithole, but it's a shithole. But they were shooting Saw there. And for what $1.2 million, Saw X came out. I mean, why aren't studio? I don't know. I know it's not their business model, but my God, I mean, it should be bringing new talent in. You know, it's we're seeing movies. I know Smile was like 18 or something $million, but why wasn't It Follows a studio movie? Why wasn't I mean, Barbarian did get released through a studio, but why aren't these movies that are less than $5 million, especially horror titles? I myself, produced a horror film, The Hills Run Red, that Dave Parker and I developed over a year, and we took it. It was very interesting. These people brought us their script for The Hills Run Red, and it was going to be a $350,000 movie. And they weren't happy with the script. And they wanted me, and then I convinced them to have Dave Parker direct it because I really wanted to produce a movie on my own. That was my goal. And I'd never done that before. And we got our friend Dave Scow to come in and rewrite the script. Dave Scow, who wrote The Crow, who worked with Frank Darabont and had some Bonafides, was a great splatterpunk novelist. He came in and rewrote it. Dave Parker directed a proof of concept trailer, which I produced. So we took the proof of concept trailer and we got a meeting at Warner Brothers. We went in there, Diane Nelson, and they had Warner Premiere, their direct-to-video division. And what they were going to do was Silver Pictures was going to make 10 movies. Their Dark Castle Entertainment division was going to make 10 movies with Warner Premiere, their direct-to-video division. They had made Return to the House on Haunted Hill, which was their first one. We were their second, which was Hills Run Red, their first original that wasn't based on a previously existing movie. And after that, they were in pre-production on a movie called Cheerleaders in Trouble that they scuttled, didn't make, and they killed the whole program. I thought that we would at least get a shot at making one or maybe two more movies in that 10 because they were very happy. Well, not at first because they thought it was unreleasable because it was X-rated and sexual violence was terrible. We came to an accommodation, made the movie, came out. They even let me take it to film festivals. Did very well. You can get it at Scream Factory, at Shout. There was 122 left weeks ago, but if you want to get it on Blu-ray, it's the most self-indulgent Blu-ray. It's got 10 hours of special features, and the movie's like 83 minutes. Enjoy. But they killed that program. And I was like, why would you do that? Why would you kill that program? Why? Because the studio decided, I'll tell you why they killed the program. Why make a movie for $3 or $4 million and release it on video to Walmart and streaming or whatever, when and why do 10 of those and maybe make $10 million off each one, when we can make one movie for $150 million and make $1 billion, however much profit that entails? And I'm like, well, because you still have the same amount of time, 90 minutes or 2 hours. And if you make 10 movies for $4 million each, you've made 10 movies for $40 million. And if you can make each of them 90 minutes to 120 minutes, and they're all pretty good, because we already had a great production methodology, you can put them on Max. You can label it Dark Castle Presents, Unique Visions. There's always something you can do with those movies if they're good. But the studios, because now Wall Street has taken over and corporate spending has taken over, they've forgotten that if you're an ongoing entertainment concern, if all you're trying to do is make 10 movies a year that are 2 hours long that cost $200 million, that means you only have 20 hours of material for an entire year. And when you're starting your own streaming service, well, how are you going to work that out? I mean, what are you going to do for the other? Then you wind up with not enough stuff and subscribers won't come back. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but what are you going to do? I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Scott Bartholomew says, I remember when back in the 70s, 6 movies were released theatrically every week. Yeah, you had independent films, you had drive-in movies, you had grindhouse movies, you had Italian horror films that were recut for the American market, like Lucio Fulci's The Beyond is 7 Doors of Death. You could see all kinds of movies. Don Coscarelli was making movies that cost less than $1 million are being released theatrically. John Carpenter's Halloween, $300,000. Huge hit. Dawn of the Dead, basically a little over $1 million. These movies were not, they were released theatrically. They became huge hits, made a ton of money. The studios don't even, they'd be like, wait, what? What? I mean, it's crazy. A good movie is a good movie. Doesn't matter how much it cost. Shogun Orta says, maybe off topic, but you said they don't do smaller character movies now because there's no DVD sales. What about movies in the 70s where DVD wasn't a thing? Well, the difference is that you had a lot of venues like drive-ins, which have kind of gone away. But yeah, I mean, I would say that there were Seattle, for instance, my hometown, had per capita more theaters than Seattle had a huge movie-going population. And you could fill, we had the Crossroads Soda Stick Cinema. It wasn't called that, but the Crossroads Cinema in Bellevue, fourplex. They would show like 2 major releases, and then they would have those 7 Doors of Death, or they'd show an AFCO Embassy, they'd show Escape from New York, or Halloween or something, low-budget horror, and then studio movies. And there was an ecosystem that supported those films. But they were all made with the intent that they were going to the theater. When they came out with the direct-to-video market in the mid to late 80s and onward, they didn't have to. The movies didn't have to be as technically proficient, which I always thought was a mistake, but whatever. Our friend Claudius says, Rob Robert, the next evolution of prestige cinema may be communal, interactive, and immersive. Oh, I totally agree with that. The 2D cinema experience may eventually seem dated. Oh, 100%. 100%. Make no mistake. The 2D passive cinema experience will pass into the ether at some point. I do believe that communal, interactive, and immersive experiences are what's going to become the new rising entertainment. I mean, remember, we still have ballet, we still have the symphony, we still have all theater, and those things are hundreds of thousands of years old, and they're still here, but they're not the dominant form of entertainment. People still like those things, and I think movies will continue to be made. It is an art form unto itself. I especially love the movie format, the 90 minutes, 2 hours, or even 2.5 or 3 hours, but it will change. And I think we're on the precipice of that. We're seeing this, and I've often said that I think that we're at the place where Hollywood was in the 1920s. That I don't know, the advent of sound in 1927 changed things forever. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that the increases in AI and in interactive technology and all the other technologies that exist. And remember, when disclosure happens and the UFOs are revealed, who knows what reverse engineered technology we'll get from the aliens or the interdimensional beings or the Thetans or whomever. But I do think, I'm kidding. I mean, I want disclosure to happen. I want to live when there's aliens. I do. I don't know if I will, but I want to believe. But in all honesty, I do think that we're going to get this entertainment that we've never seen before, that is going to put you in an immersive situation where you're experiencing it. Which, by the way, I love this idea. I mean, as much as I love movies, I'm a futurist. I will embrace the interactivity and the immersive nature of all that. Bring it on. Make me the protagonist in my own story. Plus, with our narcissistic society, me can get taken to a whole new level. So, yes, I agree. I think that's going to happen. Claudius goes on to say, note, Matthew Vaughn self-financed Argyle. Apple paid $200 million for it. Oh, really? The creative shortcomings of Argyle are Vaughn's fault. Apple just made a bad bet. I didn't realize that. Well, that changes everything. You know, it's funny because Matthew Vaughn's good at financing his own material because that way he owns it. Well, that's a whole different thing. Then Apple kind of that was a bummer for Apple. I wonder how much he paid for it. I'll bet he paid a lot less than $200 million. But good for Matthew Vaughn. Matthew Vaughn, don't hate the player, hate the game. I mean, if he can get paid, you got to get paid. And he did. You know? As Eric B. and Rakim said, paid in full. Rakim, that lyrical flow never ceases to amaze. And, wow, I didn't know that. Well, that's producing. Paul Allen Bernardo says, Rob, check out the trailer and making of for a 16mm film called Boxhead Revolution by my friend Mark Christensen. It's very punk. I will do that as soon as I get off. Off this stream. Sean Hoover says, don't forget City Lights. You will be in tears. I think Isaac will probably, I don't know if Isaac's seen that, but I would assume Isaac has already seen that. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Kelvin Wellborn has been a member for 22 months. Thank you, Kelvin. He's a good man, and he helps me get things from down under. Michael Preston says, hi, Rob. With over 50% of Americans wearing glasses and the Apple Vision Pro not able to be used with glasses, won't this hurt Apple's sales? Ooh, that's a good question. You know, probably, but I would imagine that the Apple Vision Pro, eventually you can adjust it for your vision. That you'll find out what your prescription is and just be able to punch it in. I don't know, maybe they have an app for that already. And whatever you need, however you need your vision corrected, it'll correct for your vision at that thing. I don't know, but I would imagine something like that would be easy to do. That the Apple Vision Pro would be able to set your vision prescription for you. I don't know, but I would imagine maybe it could. Kinky Sphincter has been a member of this channel for 37 months. I always love a Kinky Sphincter, so thank you for that. Let's see. I'm going to read another letter if it's as good as the last one I read. So, let's see. This one comes from Tony Washburn, Destiny Captain. How are you doing, Tony? I hope well. Destiny Captain says, this just says, this episode, or this letter is regarding episodes 929 and 930. Here's what Tony Washburn says. Like what you like, don't like what you don't. It's really that simple. However, you are not obligated to blindly follow or consume what a rights holder says, does, or produces with respect to the IP they own. The rights holders are just that and nothing more. They are far too often not caretakers, nor do they really wish to be. They want all the benefit of owning a thing, but none of the burden. We are the caretakers. We are the ones that love and nurture these things from their infancy to their maturity. We have put our valuable money, time, blood, sweat, and tears to help them survive. Without any number of us, these IPs and franchises would have been relegated to the scrap bin of history like the hundreds of other titles produced in the last 100+ years. Regardless of what the right holders say, we matter. You cannot have one without the other. They certainly owe us nothing. We've paid our fees, we've consumed their products, our business is essentially done. However, by the same token, we owe them nothing. Our business is done, and we are now free to criticize or celebrate anything and everything with respect to the IPs. We are not obligated to blindly accept anything they choose to fold into our favorite titles simply because they own them. We are not obligated to sing either the praises of the IP or its current administrators simply because they are the owners. We are not under contract with them to do so. If they fail the brand, if they fail the fan, if they fail the dream, we can walk away. Never apologize for not liking or disliking what you like. Amen. Oh, and George R. R. Martin is a punk-ass bitch. I couldn't care less about the Game of Thrones books. However, by the very fact that he authored these books and led his fans to believe that there would be a conclusion to the long-running series, he's essentially entered into a good faith agreement with them. He's certainly benefited from their money and support. If for some reason he feels like he doesn't want to continue writing these books, all he had to do was bring in other authors to complete them based on his notes with him supervising. But what he has done instead is everything but that. He doesn't like to take the heat for not keeping up his end of the agreement with his fans. Well, boo-hoo. He needs to man up and finish the damn thing. Also, he can F right off about hate fans comment. Fandom has always been like this. The internet has simply given it a megaphone. Further, genre and nerd fandom has nothing on the big bad of fandom. Sports fans. Sports fans are the apex predators of all fandom. Their fringe elements have been known to tear down stadiums and burn neighborhoods. There was more, but it got cut off. Be seeing you. Well, I want to thank you for writing in, Tony. I hope you're feeling good. And that, look, what more needs to be said? I think you said it all there. But, here's the problem when it comes to these things. I can't help the fact that I've liked Star Trek since I was 5 years old. I also can't help the fact that beginning at a very early age, I was buying technical manuals and concordances and novels and action figures and model kits. That Star Trek became a thing, that it invaded and colonized my brain forever. And that I've liked this thing. Who would have thought that a show that was middling in the ratings from 1966 to 1969 would now, in the year 2024, have a Section 31 movie shooting, have a season 5 of a middling show, Discovery, come out, have won Saturn Awards, multiple Saturn Awards, Star Trek Picard Season 3 last night, who has an animated series getting a new season, Lower Decks. Who would have thought that? I wouldn't have. And while I do not like most of modern Star Trek being made today, the concept has endured through multiple generations, through multiple decades, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, the teens, and now we're in the 2020s. That's amazing. 7 decades of a franchise. I would never have thought it. I wouldn't have thought. I thought Star Trek was over when I was 5 years old when I started watching Star Trek. I thought, well, that's all that there's ever going to be. Then lo and behold, there was an animated series that ran 22 episodes over 2 seasons. And it was very good. And then I thought that was the end. And then they started printing more books and photo novels. And then there was talk of a movie. And a decade after it went off the air, Star Trek came back. I never would have thought that. Not only did it come back, it came back in grand fashion. Then 3 years later was another movie. And 2 years after that, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. It's insane to me that Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, is 40 years old this year. First couple weeks of June, I think. Maybe it was later in June. I think it was the first couple weeks of June. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan opened June 4th. I think that Star Trek III, I'd have to check. Similar. Who would have thought? That was 40 effing years ago, and that was Star Trek III. Nutty. But yeah, I've earned the right to not like modern Star Trek. And so have you. But that was a great letter, and I want to thank you for writing in. Anti-Fan Part 2 from our friend in Holland, Undead Sick. This comes from Undead Sick, writing about my episode last night. Hello, Rob. I'm writing this letter as a reaction to your Part 2 of the Anti-Fan stream, in particular your talks about schools and teachers. And I've never disagreed with you more on a number of things. First of all, I want to say something about the student uprising at Evergreen, with the people of color removing themselves before and now demanding stuff. Remember, that whole idea came out of a play. Removing themselves is very easy to accept for the bigger mass because they have the mentality of, and I've seen this many times in my own childhood, which I'll get back to, as long as we don't see them, we have a good life because we can pretend they don't exist. Well, I don't think that was the point of removing them. The point of removing them is to show how vital they are to the community, and when they are removed, they're missed. At least that's how I always understood it. But with them demanding things, you actually you are actually getting confronted with things like exclusion for 100 years and equal rights. See the difference? And to your point that it defeats the purpose, I would say this: action is reaction. Moving on. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. Because remember, this day of remembrance or removal, whatever you want to call it, I forget what it was called, is based on a specific work. And the thing is, I get what you're saying, but that wasn't the point of what had happened as a thing. And you can't trade one oppression for another. And when one group starts demanding another group prove their allyship by doing this, and if you don't, then this group is branding you something, I don't think that's the lesson. I think that's reversion. I think that's going back to something else, and that's not what this day was about. But I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. It's just not what the intent was on this day. And when the professor called them out on this, and the students got all upset, and by the way, these students, that was not the point they were making. It was not the point they were making. You had a lot of students, they are bandwagging on to performance activism, because they want to feel better about themselves by taking up a cause. It doesn't matter what cause. It wasn't even very well thought through. They just wanted to uprise. And that's, anyway. And to your point that it defeats the purpose, I would say this action is reaction. Moving on. And this whole thing of me really bothers me as well, because at the end of the day, we all want to be seen. It's all about empowerment, which brings me to the school. I think I've already told you once that I used to be bullied. Throughout my entire youth, I suffered from depression. I smoked about 6 packs of cigarettes per week, by the way. You might ask, what does that have to do with anything? Bear with me. At my school, there were 20 teachers, 1 principal, and 1 janitor. Now, I just speak from my experience, but if my bullying happened on my way home after school, I might be more mild towards schools, but my bullying happened on the school grounds. And you're telling me that all those teachers that I just mentioned have never seen one little thing in 20 frickin' years? To me, that's a problem. Not everyone has the resilience to fight back or has friends to lean on. I had no friends in my youth or a girlfriend. This idea that everyone can rise up and be somebody by themselves is BS in my opinion. If that were true, I would have thrown myself off a bridge I was standing on, or I would have drowned myself in the swimming pool. Now, the fact that teachers might not see anything, which I highly doubt, is one thing. But for them to look the other way and actually indulge into bullying themselves like I myself witnessed, see where I'm going? Teachers or school systems have way too much power without people controlling them, in my opinion, and we now live in a world where we put labels on anything without really knowing what the issue is, and we've created the label guilty until proven innocent. Oh, wait, it should be the other way around, isn't it? And it drives me insane that this is our modern-day society. Greetings from Holland, undead sick. This is an interesting letter, and I understand where you are coming from. First of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I have been bullied myself. I got in fights because people used to give me a hard time because I remember I had an Empire Strikes Back embroidered patch on my ski jacket that I wore to school, and I got in a fight. And a guy ripped the patch off my jacket and tore my jacket. And I got in a fight a lot. I wore a Star Trek uniform to school the day Star Trek the Motion Picture came out, and I was taken in the girls' bathroom by Mike Elfendahl, and he beat the shit out of me. And I endured some of those slings and arrows. But what I did was I remember one time in the cafeteria in junior high, it was actually the gymnasium, we were having lunch, and someone dumped their spaghetti. I know who it was. It was Jeff Rice. Dumped his spaghetti on me. And he was older, and at that time, I went, picked up the spaghetti that was in my lap. I walked up to him and flung it in his face. Now, I knew I was going to get a beat down for that, but it was like, I think that the only way, ultimately, and I know people can't. It is. And by the way, the last day of 8th grade, some upperclassmen declared it Bob Burnett Beat Up Day. I told my dad about this and what I was going to do, and I said to my dad, he's like, do you want me to come to school? I was like, fuck no. And what I did was I had all my stuff ready to go, and normally I'd like to hang out because I was social and I had lots of friends, and I would sit there and hang out after school. Last day of school, you sign everybody's yearbook. I had my shit ready to go. As soon as that bell rang, I couldn't get to my locker fast enough. I was already packed, ready to go, and I ran the fuck out of there and ran as fast as I could to get to where my bike was and ride my bike home. And my dad was at school and watched this happen. And he didn't intervene. And while I'm not saying it's the best way to be, but, the only way you can stop bullying is to stand up for yourself. And as hard as that can be. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It's just the law of the land. It's the law of the jungle. And, it sucked because I got beat up a lot, and I understand where that comes from. But I don't think the answer then, and look, the teachers definitely should have intervened, and I'm sorry to hear you say that they didn't. But it's not a teacher's job. First of all, this kind of thing I don't know how it's supposed to go on, but teachers are not trained to intervene in one-to-one combat. Nowadays, teachers can't even do their job. There's such a lack of respect for teachers from their students. That's why teachers are quitting the profession in droves, because kids today there's no respect at all. So I don't know what the difference is, but oppressed people can't turn around and then become the oppressors. I don't think that's the way to solve any problems. And at Evergreen, that student uprising, you can't tell people you need to prove your allyship by doing this thing. That's not how you get people to prove their allyship. If people are going to be allies, they're doing it freely, not because you demanded or coerced them into becoming an ally. What kind of allies are those? So the thing at Evergreen, I can understand why you objected to what I was saying, but here's the thing. I don't think that for one group, you can't oppress. I see too much of this, and I'm telling you what I was hearing in this letter from, and we've known each other now. At least you've been interacting with me for a long time. I see more and more of the rhetoric. I believe in equality and inclusion, and I believe in hearing about from the voices of marginalized people, but not at the expense of anyone else. Oppressors cannot turn, or people who are oppressed, they want their revenge. I get it. We see it all the time, but that's what these things are turning into, and I fear where that is going to lead, because the problem is no one's offering to replace our system. Let's tear it all down, and replace it with what? Capitalism is terrible. Is it? The world you live in, the very things that give you the right to say capitalism is terrible, has led to you being able to say that. So for as bad as everyone says, let's destroy Western civilization, and believe me, there's a lot of things about this civilization that need fixing. But what is the alternative? Where would you rather live? Is there any place in the world that has a system of government or governance that you'd rather live in? I don't think so. Why do more people want to immigrate to the United States than anywhere else in the world? There's a reason. Well, I know some people do want to destroy it from the inside. I get that. But, our way of life's pretty damn good. And it's worth fighting for, I think. But this is an interesting letter. I got to ponder this for a while before. I'm not going to put this in. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this in the. I'm going to keep this here. I'm going to revisit your letter because I need to think about this. This one comes from Robert Conlon, and his subject heading is Fans and Anti-Fans. Hi, Robert. Here's a satirical poem about extreme fans. This poem is from my poetry book I just put out on Amazon. Fuck You As You Fuck Me With Understanding. By me, Robert Conlon. It's full of shit stirs, reflections, and observations. Sorry about the self-promotion. I enjoy your show most of the time. Thanks. It is called Fanning the Dragon into Submission. It's all about me, 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 the outcome I need, decree, the hypothesis of my prophecies, leaks and guesses, friends and likes, all agree. I'm the one who can see, the writers and showrunners misconceive, the true narrative I perceived. They got it wrong. I always get it right. And if I don't get what I know the show wants, I'll start a campaign. Not to watch. I'm the voice of the fans who truly understands what the story, the plot, the subtext is really all about. Me, me, me. It's all about me. Robert, you're a very talented poet. And if this is true, if you just put this poetry book out on Amazon, I recommend everyone to go get Fuck You As You Fuck Me With Understanding by me, Robert Conlon, Conlon. It's full of shitsters, reflections, and observations. I'll go get that book. Is it really there? Now I want to know. Is it really on Amazon? I want to see. I want to see if that really is on Amazon, because if it is, I'm going to put the link in the description. Okay. Fuck you as you fuck me with understanding. I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not here. Just so you know. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing Zen as Fuck, a journal for practicing the mindful art of not giving a shit. Of course, maybe it's down here. Hang on. The results are all. Let me just go to books. Hang on. Let me go to books. Okay. Oh, it is here. Oh my God, this is real. This is real. Wow. In hardcover, no less. Fuck you as you fuck me with understanding. Oh my God, I'm putting this in live. This is amazing. Okay, Robert Conlon. Everybody, you know what? It's just times like these where I just have to go, you go, people. This is amazing. I'm putting this in the live chat. I hope everyone goes and orders this right now. There it is. In hardcover by Robert James Conlon, author, and it was published on January 10th, 2024. The public announcement here says, the following poems are rated PGR with more R than PG. They may contain words that one could associate with cowboy redos, bad mornings after and before, terrible illusions about persons either living or they should be dead, uncontrollable ranting, purple prose, bad puns, and a lack of rhyme, meter, or reason. Persons over the age of 18 should be accompanied by an alcoholic beverage. This has been a pathetic announcement by me. You've been warned. P.S. This book contains poetry and poetic prose which is dark, hard-edged, sexual, idiotic, confronting, working class, stupid, ironic, drugged out, pissed, reflective, political, shit-stirring writing. This is a real book. It's $22.10. And you can get it on Kindle. Wow. You can get it for $0 or $4 to earn 12 points to buy. What do you know? Fuck you as you fuck me with understanding. Poetry by Robert James Conlon. You know what? You wrote a book, man. You did something I've never done that I aspire to do. And that's amazing. That's truly amazing. I love that. You know what? I don't think I can top that. Let me see if there's any more super chats or things. I can't. I gotta end this show with that. Scott Bartholomew says, "Have you seen The Corpse Grinders?" Yes, very long time ago on VHS. I didn't love it. Thomas Logan said, "Tell us about your first time watching Eyes Wide Shut in theaters. It premiered July 12th, 1999, 4 months after Kubrick's death. Also, your thoughts on Eyes Wide Shut." It's funny, I just got a new version of Eyes Wide Shut yesterday with Kubrick's preferred color timing. What do I think about it? I like Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, I read the book about how the idea that Tom Cruise's character, his medical identification, is the key that gets him into all of these magical realms, and how the motif of the Christmas tree and all that. But really, I understand. I think that Eyes Wide Shut, while a lot of people don't love it because I think it's rather straightforward, I love all the performances in it. I love watching it. I think it's like all Kubrick movies, it's compulsively watchable, and I do think it's a pretty simple story. But ultimately, I think it's a very romantic movie. Because at the end of the day, it's about the sanctity of marriage. And it's about the fragility of the male ego, and how one notion... I mean, Nicole Kidman didn't even have an affair in that movie. She just told Tom Cruise that she thought about it, and it's driving him nuts. And I totally understand that. I think there's a lot of truth in the movie. And when I first saw it, though, it bothered me because you could tell that there were digital figures over the more explicit aspects of it, more of the nudity. And I was very happy to get the European version of the movie on DVD. I'd had it on DVD before I had it on anything else. And I'm glad that that version exists. But there are things about the movie that puzzle me. And Kubrick is a perfectionist, and I'll tell you one of those things that puzzle me. What this says about me is, I'll leave that up for you to decide. There's a scene when Tom Cruise is being led through, when he first gets led through the public orgies, and this girl that's walking him there, and then the girl her pubic hair changes, and it's supposed to be the same girl, and I've been fascinated by that. He must have known and did. It was a continuity. Is it a continuity error, or is it supposed to be something that keys you off on the fact that it's a dream? What does that say about me? I don't know, because he was such a perfectionist, and I've always wondered about that. And I also think, I'll tell you something about Eyes Wide Shut that I don't think apparently it wasn't re-edited, other than the fact they added the digital figures. But it was the first movie that Kubrick edited digitally. And I think, as an editor myself, that the dissolves in the film last too long. I think they're probably 24-frame dissolves or longer, maybe. And I think if he didn't die, he would have cut those dissolves down and made them probably 12-frame dissolves or 18-frame dissolves. They last too long. And I think that's because he wasn't there's too much of the outgoing shot and too much of the incoming shot. Usually the outgoing shot lasts too long. There's movement there I think he would have gotten rid of. But we'll never know. I think it's beautifully shot, and I like it. I even love the rear projection of Tom Cruise walking in New York. And I do love Eyes Wide Shut. But when I saw it in Westwood. I think I want to say that I saw it at the Village, or I might have seen it on the Warner lot. I'm not sure. I don't remember the first time I saw Eyes Wide Shut. But I'm sure I went to a screening in Westwood and puzzled over it, like all Kubrick movies. But it's funny, a friend of mine sent me a video where somebody did the actual Kubrick color timing. And I converted that file and was watching it just last night, right here on my computer. So that's interesting you ask about that. Kenneth Colton says 20 days till Dune Part 2 IMAX fan screening plus Deadpool 3 trailer this Super Bowl Sunday. High hopes, Rob. I think this. Now, probably the trailer is going to be a 30-second trailer and it'll say watch the full trailer online. It would not surprise me if whatever 30 seconds they show at the Super Bowl for Deadpool 3 is not a trailer, because you're going to get the full trailer online, but it's something else that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have cooked up. Maybe something in character. Maybe they're at the game. I don't know what. I don't know what it is, but whatever it's going to be, I don't think it's the trailer. I think it's going to be something else. And then it'll say trailer available online. We'll all get to watch it. I am very curious about this movie, because it's very interesting. I think it's not an MCU movie. It's the end of the Fox X-Men. And how is it going to become an MCU movie? How is that going to work? And there's one particular joke with, as we were talking about, the guy, I can't say, that I think is fantastic. I hope they don't blow it in the trailer, though. I could see them, this one particular joke, I think they could blow it in the trailer. I understand why they're going to do it, because they have to entice people. But it's a really great joke. And I mean, it's a really great thing that they do. It's a misdirection, and it's brilliant. I hope they do it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. We'll see. Jason Webster. I already said that. No, I'm all caught up. I think I'm all caught up with everybody. I'm going to end this stream. I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. I want to say thanks to everybody who wrote letters. Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. This was a great stream. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for just showing up, because I don't warn him that I'm doing these streams. So thank you. Thank you very much, Tom Jr. Jackson. We're all goof people. And I want to thank everybody who watches this channel, who generously supports this channel via Super Chats and Tips, and has subscribed, and we do member chats. We will be doing a member chat this coming weekend, this Saturday. We'll have another member chat where we all hang out if you're a member. You can be a member for as little as, I think, 99 cents a month. So there you go. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to everybody, have a better night.